inverse of which relation is not a function. Let's try to understand it with the help of group of questions, right? So what I will do here is write down the questions for you, take your time, think about it, and then write down your answers for inverse of which relation is not a function. So let's start with first relation A as something like this: 1, 2, 0, 3, minus 1, 2. Okay, you have to figure out whether this is a relation, right? Whether inverse of this relation is a function or not. If it is not a function, then that is your choice, okay? Now you can have many choices as in this set, right? Now, second one, let me write this as, let's say 2, 1, 2, 2, 0, 5. Okay. Now C, okay. In C, I'll write a function. I'm actually giving you all these are relations, not functions, but you have to figure out whether their inverse is a function or not. If the inverse is not a function, then that is your choice, okay? You can have more than one correct answer in this case. Okay, so we have 0, 5, 0, minus 5, and 0, 0. Okay, so these are what the coordinates, right? Now let me give you a few mapping diagrams. So here is one. You have to find inverse of these before writing down the answer, right? So let's say that is how they're linked. Okay, let me link like this. Okay, that's fine, good enough. And this is your option D. Let me write 1, 2, 3, and here I'll just write A and B. Okay, D. And now for me, E is another one, which is kind of like this. Another mapping diagram, and this time let me map it like this. Okay, so what we have here is 1, and here we have 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's add some more to test it out, and then we will discuss the solution. If this time, let me give you a few graphs. So let me sketch a graph here, and this one f graph is like absolute function. Let me write down 1 like this. Okay, so that is the function. You have to see whether the inverse is a function or not, right? G. Let's have another graph here, and this time I will make a, okay, let me use this ink. Okay, that's fine. So that is kind of a parabola which is in a different direction. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, H. I'll give you one equation, which is xy equals to 1. Figure out whether this inverse of this is a function or not, and then let me write this as y minus 1 times y plus x equals to 0. Okay, whether this is a function or not, right? So this is how we can have one more I can add here, and that is I'll write y equals to square root of x plus 5. Okay, now your job is to find inverse of which relation is not a function. Okay, how will you do it? Okay, let's see. I hope you must have got the answers by now. Here are my solutions. Inverse of which relation is not a function. So first we are given these relations. We have to find inverse not being a function. That means we are looking for the y values being repeated. So here the y values are repeated, and therefore its inverse will give us 2, 1 and 2 minus 1. That is not going to be the function. So this is our answer, which says inverse of this relation is not a function. In this case, again, we'll match the y values, right? Well, all are different, so this is a function. I mean, its inverse is a function. This is not a function, right? In this case, well, the y values are all different, and therefore its inverse will definitely be a function. Okay. Now here, b is repeated. Well, I've not drawn the arrows. So okay, so what I will do is I'll draw arrows going in this direction. Okay, that's my mistake. Sorry for that. Now let's look into it once again. Inverse will be from a to 1 and from b to 2 or 3. Oh, that's not a function. So we'll circle it. Now in this case, inverse will be from 2 to 1, 3 to 1. So that is a function. Here, whenever you're given a graph, horizontal line test. So what you do here is horizontal line test. So if I draw a horizontal line, it cuts at 2 points and therefore its inverse is not a function. So that is how it is. In this case, it passes. So inverse is a function. X, y equals to 1. That means what is, if we do inverse, it is 1 over y. So it's a reciprocal function. So it is a function. In this case, if I open this bracket up, I do not get x squared, right? I do get y squared. So this is also a function. And in this case, if I try to find the inverse of this function, what do I get? I get square root, and this is with positive things. So I get only 1/2 of a parabola, and therefore this is also a function, right? I hope this is clear to you. Let me sketch this and show, right? So let me sketch this right here. We have, okay, let me do it in this place. So when you have y equals to x plus 5 square root, that means the function is kind of like this. Is it okay? So that is what it is. So if x is 0, this will be square root 5. Is it okay? Now, if it is minus 5, then y is 0. So that is how y equals to square root of x plus 5 graph is going to be. So if I draw inverse of this function, what do I get? Now the inverse will be that it is getting reflected here at minus 5, and that is invariant point, right? So basically we can have a graph like this, right? So that is 1/2 of the parabola where x is greater than or equal to 0, right? So it is a function, correct? So in these set of questions, what we found is that the inverse of absolute function inverted is not a function. Well, this fails horizontal line test. So horizontal line test on the function, when you find the inverse, it fails the vertical line test. That is how it is, right? Now in this case, now this is a function, but when you do inverse of it, then b will be associated with 2 and 3, and therefore inverse of this is not a function. Similarly, part A will give two different values for inverse of this function for 2, x equals to 2, right? So that is also not a function. So that is how we can figure out whether inverse of the relation is a function or not a function. I hope that gives you a good review on whatever you've learned so far relating to relations, functions, and inverse of functions. Thank you and all the best.